Hey guys, welcome to Mean Mugging Games. We actually have a really cool special episode for you. I'm super excited about this. You'll see right on our screen immediately we got Kryptik up. We're gonna do a crazy awesome, I don't know, we'll call it a deck tech from the August monthly tournament over at Kryptik. So we got Jonathan here. But before we get into anything, we have to go over what we're mugging. So I'm gonna have Mike. You go first because yours is always lame, and we're gonna move. We're gonna end strong with Jonathan over there.
Lame, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm mugging Rogue, a hazelnut brown nectar.
Okay, you got a strong one this week.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
expecting Diet
Boom.
Coke.
I know.
No. The special guest gets special treatment. Jonathan, what are you mugging?
Oh, Angry Orchard crisp apple, 2 apples every bottle.
There we go.
Nice.
And I
And
have
Nathan?
Sweetwater 420, just a
All
pale ale.
right.
Delicious, and it comes in pints, so
Fantastic.
it's fun.
So, if you guys been watching the videos that I've been putting out, saying there's some major announcements coming on 1,000 subscribers. And if we hit 1,000 subscribers, it is legit. I have a first edition Arcane Rising booster box, sealed, fully closed. No shenanigans here. We get 1,000 subscribers. There might be a time frame. We'll talk more about it on the next episode. But I'm just wanting to get it out there. 1,000 subscribers. A lucky individual is going to get this first edition Arcane booster box.
It's awesome.
So yeah.
All right, so now we're gonna
Let's get
jump
there.
into it. We have the Kryptik August monthly tournament, and we have the deck in front of us, and I can't wait to be kind of taken through. So, Jonathan, take us away. Just talk us through, a little bit about the deck, what stuck out to you, what you love about it, and then we'll probably, definitely talk about main board and sideboard and what we're looking at. But I kind of want to take me through this. I want to see this.
All right. So when I went into making what I wanted to play for the August tournament, first I referenced the top 8 list from the July tournament just to try to gauge what I'd expect the meta to be at this one. And control was really dominant in the July tournament. So I was like, okay, I'll run something a lot lower to the ground, a lot more aggressive. But I'd say my build is more mid-range because I kept a lot of slower cards in as well because I was expecting other people to do the same. I was thinking, okay, it's very easy to see, all right, control 1, so people will play aggro. Well, read 2 steps ahead, play mid-range to beat the people who are trying to counter the control. But I wanted to make sure I left in enough aggressive elements to still do well into control. So I'm actually running 51 cards, and the required minimum is 40, so I'm a good bit over the normal deck list requirement or what the normal deck list people play is because 40, you're more consistent. But there's no pre-boarding in this game. But by running 51, I feel like I'm pseudo pre-boarding. So if I know I'm playing against an aggressive deck, I'll just take my slower cards and I'll turn those into my soul row. Those will become my resources. And, it allows me to be a lot more flexible with my game plan pre-sideboard.
Nice. Yeah, that's
So
actually a really interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's why you're the champ.
the first one drop Cleo. She's just really strong. This is a green-blue deck dominantly anyways. There are some outliers, but I'll go over those when I get there. So Cleo is really good, eager. Her probing when she dies is just a bonus, but a 1-drop that can attack immediately is always strong. Plus, if it gets hit from your soul row, or no, from your 11-year row, you can play it for free.
And really quick for the people that don't know what eager is that is this something equivalent to like Magic the Gathering?
Yeah, it's like haste.
Okay.
So creatures enter this game weary, which would be summoning sick for Magic players. This is essentially just haste.
Gotcha.
Wayland has this engage ability, which would just be a tap ability in Magic. You can sacrifice him to return target citizen to its owner's hand. Now, if you look, he's blue and white, and if you put him in his soul row, he'll only give you a white. So Wayland will almost never be put in your soul row. He's just a very strong card, and I'll get back to his ability because his ability is actually what won me Game 3 in the finals.
Okay, right on.
And then the third one drop, rounding it out, Pollux. The reason I like Pollux is one, his ability Steadfast is the Magic equivalent of Vigilance. So he
Okay.
can attack and remain untapped, so he'll still be back for blocking. But this goes into me expecting other people to play more aggressive decks. I know that blue-white was popular, and blue-white, they have a one drop, it's a 4/2 with Eager. So I thought if I put this in, it would allow me to, one, be able to trade up, because if I cast a spell, he becomes toxic, trade up into bigger matches, or I can just block for free value against the aggro decks, namely their one drop 4/2. And then this huge chunk right here, these are all 2 drops. The 2 drops really make this deck. First one, Theodore. He's kind of a weak unit, but he provides very strong card advantage. When he enters the island, you could draw one. If you play him on short time, which is the only time you will ever play him, then it's draw one and probe one. So you get card advantage as well as you can filter out garbage in your hand.
True.
Dead on Arrival, these are really strong. They only cost 2 and it counters target citizen. But it also adds a green or a blue. So if you put it in your soul row, it adds both of your dominant colors. And with it costing 2, it could be played into other aggro decks. If you're on the play, you can play this and not have to worry about it as much. If you're on the draw, normally you soul row it because you can't afford to be playing reactionary when you're on the back foot. So it's very versatile, which is why I still keep it in, even though this is an aggressive a more aggressive deck. After that, Imposed Withdrawal, it returns target citizen to its owner's hand. This is another instance of something costing a blue and a white, but for all intents and purposes, it may as well just be blue because I'm never adding white. This might seem pretty weak because you're not really getting rid of a threat. You're not destroying it or putting it back into their deck, but it's really good when you're trying to go wide and run low to the ground, because if your opponent can't do that and they're only playing one creature a turn and you're playing 2 or 3, well, you'll easily just outnumber them. Azizi, 7/5 sidestep. Her ability is incredibly strong. Essentially, if she's in your graveyard and a non-ascendant citizen dies under your control, you can pay a green and a blue and return her. So the sidestep ability is really good in aggro mirrors and against control, because not a lot of citizens have sidestep, so anything that has it inherently becomes a lot stronger. But her recursion effect makes her even more dangerous, because if you have 2 separate Azizis and one's in the graveyard, one's on the field, well, they can never get rid of both of them unless they abolish or send the Azizi to exile. Ozara, I actually don't think I played this card a single game the whole tournament. I only put it in my soul row.
I was gonna say soul row.
But like I said, this is one of those cards that were in my pre-boarding school of thought. If there's a lot of control decks, this would be really good. But I didn't play a single control deck, so it was actually really underwhelming, but it didn't hinder me too much, and I just sideboarded it out as soon as I could. This next one, Einar, cannot block, cannot be block. This is really, really powerful because sidestep, right, which is why I said Azizi was good. This is like sidestep, but a whole new level, right? Because the other players can just play sidestep, or there's cards that negate sidestep. But unless they kill Einar or make it where he cannot attack, he is a guaranteed hit coming through. Which means a lot of times, even if you have out units that give you more card advantage or have better stat lines, they're forced to remove him or they'll just die. Hona, really good at generating mana advantage. When she dies, she gets put into your soul row instead of your limbo pile. So she won me, I think, 2 of my matches. I think she played a heavy role because going from 2 to 4 is very strong in this deck. Because a lot of times, you see how many 2s are in this deck. On 3, you're kind of mana efficient. Most of the times you play 1, 2. Sometimes you'll play a 3 if you have one. But if you can play double 2, then you're cooking.
Yep.
So it allows you to turn 2, double 2. Well, turn 3, you'll be at 4 because she ramps you. Play a double 2, and then the next turn play another double 2 or a 2 and a 3. And then that's how you go wide, which is the strategy of this deck. All right. Finally, after a long wait, onto the 3s.
Ooh, yes, here we go. Some spice.
I think this is probably the best card currently in the game. Ravenous, once per turn, during your turn only, my bad. You may choose assistant or spell, randomly look at one card in any single opponent's hand. If it matches the selected, draw 1. I mean, in this game, there's only citizen and spell. And if you know what your opponent's playing, the odds of you guessing it right are really high. But that Ravenous ability that lets you target 2 separate 11-year cards when attacking, that ability is also incredibly strong in this deck. And I'll go through that later when I explain some of the synergies. Oh, were you saying something, Mike?
Oh no, I was just saying that. I mean, you hands down that is the best card in the game. I mean,
Yeah.
Ravenous. I mean, it's threefold. I mean,
And the stat
like you
line
said,
is also very good. That stat line for 3 is very high.
right. I mean, Ravenous, like you said, if you figure out if you call the right card, you get to see the opponent's hand, and on top of that, draw a card. I mean, it's just nuts, man. It's just so good.
Estrid costs 3. When it enters the island, you can return any target citizen to its owner's hand. One thing about this is you can also return your own citizen to your hand. A lot of people, I don't see a lot of people do that. Obviously, there's not a lot of reasons when you might want to, but there are a lot of status effects that will prevent one of your units from attacking permanently. I remember at one game I played Estrid and returned my Einar to my hand because I wanted to be able to attack with it later, and it was in a perma lock.
Yep.
So
I
went ahead and did that.
I kind of did the same thing. I used on her ability to bounce back Davy back into my hand because Davy was clapped.
Oh, speaking of Davy, he's next. And Estrid is normally better against more expensive decks because she doesn't have a mana restriction on who she can return. Davy is who you want when you're specifically wanting to bounce cheap units. He is insanely good into any aggro deck or maybe just slightly aggressive mid range. His ability is essentially useless against a more controlling deck. But like I said, I was expecting most people to go aggro to try and counter control, which ended up being a proper hedge as I didn't face any control. But when he enters the island or dies, you can return target citizen with total soul cost of 2 or less to its owner's hand. So it's just absolute insane value. You can lead every attack sequence with him, and then they're stuck at a point where it's if they block him and he dies, then you can return your other blocker, so then your other attacker gets through, or they just don't block him and he gets through. It's really a catch-22 with Davy. Corinna, 8/6 sidestep. When she dies, you can turn a target spell from your soul row to your hand. Really just the sidestep is why I have her in there. She's another card that's mainly for control decks. Being able to return a spell card from your soul row to your hand is very important because a lot of times early game, I might be putting Dead on Arrivals or Imposed Withdrawals in my soul row because they're very low tempo and you really don't want to play them until you're probably in the lead.
Yep.
But they're also really high value, so you want them back at some point. Corinna gives you a way to do that. The final 3-drop, Rash Judgment. Counter target spell or citizen, pro 1. Just a really strong counter spell. Most of the times, this just gets played as a land, right? Because by the time I'm at 3 mana, I ideally want to be having them close to dead. But this is really good color fixing because it adds green or blue. but if you draw it later in the game, it can still be insane value.
Oh yeah.
On to the 4-drops, our smallest category, Deity. Almost, I found myself where I don't think she was almost ever playable on the draw, just because by the time I got to turn 4, if I was on the draw, the game was almost decided because I'm playing a more aggressive deck. But she says you could cast them at any time, you could play a spell, and when she's cast, you can counter target citizen. So in Magic, she essentially has flash, which is really strong because you can, if they attack, you can present a blocker that they didn't see coming, so you could potentially get a free block. You can also counter a really powerful creature, and or just play something at the end of their turn and surprise them with one extra attacker. The value she adds is really high, but being at 4 also means most of the time she just ends up in your soul road.
True.
Final 4-drop, Dahlia. This is just another bounce spell. After seeing the meta this last weekend, I'd say Dahlia is pretty much entirely cuttable. I'm not too sure control is that prominent anymore. And after I played some more games with the deck, I think you do well enough without Dahlia to where you probably just shouldn't add it, right? Because Dahlia only produces black, so you can almost never get value from it in your soul row. And then it takes 2 green to play it. And there are a good bit of double or green-blue cards in the deck, but most often you end up playing them and not putting them into your soul row. So sometimes Dahlia can also be relatively hard to cast compared to most of the deck. But the thought process of why Dahlia was in here was really good against mid-range and control decks. It bounces one of their creatures and allows you to probe one. So that was the thought process, but upon actual playing, I think it's cuttable.
Gotcha.
Do you want me to get into the sideboard now and then ask questions about the main, or just do the sideboard?
Yeah, just go ahead. Go
All right.
right into the sideboard. I mean, Nathan, unless you got something, you have any questions or?
No, let's jump into the sideboard.
Awesome. So first one on the sideboard is Enyo. Your other Mystic Citizens get +2/+2. Whenever Mystic Citizen dies under your control, you can pay 2 if you do draw 1. This deck is mainly Mystic Citizens. Like, there's a good bit of humans as well. I think it's only those 1-drops actually, and the rest are Mystic. But the 2/2 buff is virtually irrelevant, right? Because you're playing this against control decks. And against control decks, even with the +2/2 buff, their big units are still going to way outstat you. What this is in for is to hedge around them playing removal and stuff like that. So that way you can, if they remove your creatures, you can pay to get card advantage. That's essentially what that is, to be able to rebuild your hand after they kill everything you have. Detention. Gain control target citizen until end of turn. Disengage. That citizen becomes eager. This is against control and combo decks. There are some decks that like to put a lot of stuff into their graveyard and then cheat it out early or something like that. This is a way to punish them for that strategy. Yeah, it's just really strong, and it could also swing, right? Especially if you have something with Ravenous or they have something with Ravenous, so you're getting in a lot of extra attacks. Corpse Heist, I think everyone should be playing Corpse Heist if you have green or black in your colors. It's just the amount of value you can get off of it is really good. Return target citizen from any limbo pile with a total soul cost of 3 or less to the island under your control.
Yeah, that's just insane. Not just yours, but the opponent.
So
that's just
you can steal the opponent's auroras. If they kill yours, you can return it back. Plus Azizi, you can. One time, I was playing against a green-blue mirror, and I attacked, killed their unit. They paid 2 to activate the Azizi in their graveyard, and then once they were tapped out, I went ahead and played Corpse Heist. So I took it after I knew that they wouldn't have the mana to counter anything. So it's just strong, being able to, end the Azizi chain, take whatever you want. You could take an Estrid, a Davy, bounce stuff. Yeah, just a very strong card. And it falls in the same line as Dahlia. It is black and green. 2 black and green to cast is in the cost. But this can also produce green if I end up not being able to play it.
True.
So it's a lot more versatile than Dahlia is. Plus, it's just cheaper.
Yeah.
And on to the final one. This is one that probably shouldn't be in here, but I think it's funny. Crucial. So, short time 3, you may abolish Crucial anytime you could play a spell. If you do, destroy all citizens. Now, this is an aggro that kind of dips into mid-range deck, but I'm running a board wipe.
Yeah.
Now, it might sound weird, but against mid-range or control decks, I think this is actually very playable because once I get them down to, let's say, like 1 or maybe ideally 0 11-year cards, there's a good chance they might have an overwhelming board presence to where I can't attack past it.
True.
But if I play Crucial, even if they hold cards in hand to instantly restock, I just wait until I draw Cleo, and then I can activate Crucial, wipe the board, and play Cleo. And then that will leave them in a situation where they've got no creatures, and then she has Eager. I have won a game like that before. That was the last tournament, not this one. But that's mainly the reason she's in here, because sometimes some mid-range or control decks will just be able to outboard you. And then that's when you sacrifice Crucial, return some Azizis, and then try to get them back in a turn or two.
I was gonna say you have a lot of stuff a lot of ways to get things out of your graveyard, or a handful of ways, anyways.
Yeah, there's currently not. I think there's one card that will get something out of someone's graveyard after it's already in there, but it's relatively hard to do that. But oh, I mentioned this earlier, how Waylon's ability won me the last game. I'll go over that first before any questions.
All right.
So Waylon's ability, you could sacrifice him to return target citizen to its owner's hand. So in this game, there's no shadow blocking. What they mean by shadow blocking is, let's say I take this Hona here and I attack. I guess over there's fine. And then they block with Dahlia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if anything happens to this Dahlia that would remove it from combat, my Hona is no longer considered blocked. So in Magic, if you block and then let's say I return this creature to your hand, well, my Hona is still blocked. The attack would just fizzle. But in this game, if you return something,
It's
then
still going
it
through.
is considered unblocked and will go through. So at the end of the finals, they were at 0 11-year cards left. So all I had to do was hit them one time. They ended their turn with 4 blockers, and I started my turn with, I think, 2 Cleos and a Wayland or something like that. And I drew either the 3rd Cleo, or maybe I just had a creature out that wasn't Cleo. Either way, I could have produced 4 attackers, so I could have made it 4-4, which is what I did do, just because why not? But in reality, when they passed, tapped out, even though they were outnumbering me 4-3, I knew I'd already had the win because they had no 11-year cards left, and I had a Wayland out.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that as long as Wayland had not attacked yet, they would have to double block my attackers, or else I would just bounce a single block. So if I attack and they single block, well, I bounce it and win. But if I attack with the first 2 and they double block both of them, well, now the Wayland can attack and they have no blockers.
Yep.
So being able to bounce like that's incredibly strong, especially when paired with Aurora, because then you'll be hitting 2 cards simultaneously, and that way you can really win out of nowhere. I did that one of my games. I attacked with Aurora, and then I returned their blocker with the Bows Withdrawal, destroyed their remaining 2 11-year cards, and then killed them with Einar.
Such a good deck. I know when we were playtesting, it was a couple of nights. It was kind of overwhelming. I don't know if you added any more cards before the actual tournament, but yeah,
This
it
is
was
the same list from that night.
was
Yeah.
the same list. Okay, good deal. Yeah, no, it was a pleasure playtesting with you, and I'm glad you got the win, especially since you are from our area, you know, in Pensacola, Mobile area. So our very own Gulf Coast member took home the championship for us. So thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
So I gave a caveat kind of coming into this is that my experience is really with just the older cards, the LGS cards. So looking at this is interesting. And I just come from a vast array of TCGs in general. The interesting thing that I find in this is you're absolutely correct. This is, from looking at it, this is a mid-range deck, and simply the only reason why I say that is because there's a lot of 2 or 3 drop, but there's a lot of control elements into it, kind of early control, and that's kind of the definition of mid-range, which makes sense when you're talking about, hey, everybody was trying to counter control from last month and coming into this, why you would just kind of wipe the board and win it all if there was that much aggro. Like, this is going to destroy every single piece of aggro, as mid-range does.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of seeing all that, seeing all the bounce effects and everything, um, you know, putting stuff into people's hands isn't wrong. Like, I know you said like, hey, that's pseudo control. It's still control, because especially with the no shadow block. I mean, you have them in your palm of your hand if you have especially if they can see it, and they have to try to counter it. On that element of like, hey, I could just destroy this guy and they go bye bye. And so it kind of forces them into bad decisions. So yeah, I do love the board wipe card. I know you said, oh, that's just kind of for fun. I am a firm believer that a lot of aggro decks, unless it's like a straight up like a balls to the wall, I'm gonna win this in 2 turns deck, which I'm not sure if that exists in Kryptik or not. Um, I know it exists in Magic, it exists in Hearthstone. Like, I have to win in 2 or 3 turns, or I'm dead. But most of those decks, like if you look at that, like red is that, but they win by finishing off with spells, right? Like, that's kind of their thing. And so to have a board wipe, because you don't have a lot of spells, all your spells are, let me control the board. You're not actually killing them with them. That to have a board wipe, I don't know, that makes complete and total sense to me, especially because you can kind of manipulate things and get them out of soul rolls and bring them back in and stuff like that.
Did you think about putting in Unholy Mess at all?
Is that the one that's the 4-drop? You look at the top 4, put 2 into your hand?
I think it's
Something
just
like
the
that?
other
Oh,
just
the
mass
5-drop
wipe.
board wipe?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm, I saw it, but I was like, so what I like about Kushiel is I can activate it at the end of their turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I can put them in a spot where it's kind of like, you don't want to play anything because I'll kill it. You also don't want to attack because if you attack, then you can't block. So I put them in kind of a limbo to where I'm just waiting to where I draw a card that will win me.
Right.
Or you can attack, in which case I'll counterattack and win. Or you can overcommit, and then I'll just destroy everything, and now you'll be left with nothing.
Gotcha.
It's
No,
fun.
you also you didn't lose one game, did you? Like you like
Well,
I
I
meant
didn't
like
2-0 everything, but I didn't lose a match.
right, that's what I meant. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you like clean slate. Okay. Nice.
Going into the top 8, I had 4 wins and a tie, but obviously it was an intentional tie.
Gotcha. Was there any deck that you knew that you were just like kind of weary about? Just like, oh, I don't know, or were you just fairly confident in just everything that you were going to go against?
I was kind of nervous into blue-white aggro because they're significantly faster than I am. Like I said, I tried to make this aggressive as possible while still having game into control. But I know blue-white aggro, sometimes they'll just, they'll kill you turn 3, and it's like, dang, didn't play a card yet.
Yeah,
But um,
I think I got one in you on the play test.
yeah. So that I was like, I know if that happens, I can just get destroyed. I wasn't too particularly worried about any control deck because if I was playing against a control deck, I feel like I've got enough aggressive elements to where it should be fine. And the same
Mhm.
with mid range. I think I'm aggressive enough to where I can still outvalue a mid range deck. With what I wanted to be an aggro deck, I ended up being most nervous into aggro decks.
Gotcha. Mm. Nathan, you got anything?
No, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to try this deck out next time we play.
Yeah, it could definitely be refined a little bit for sure. Like these dahlias, I think just gotta go.
Yeah,
But
I think you're right on it. Those could definitely be cut. Which would take you what, the
it gave me
51,
to 48.
50,
Yeah, what's
48.
beautiful is I can cut cards and not even have to worry about replacing them because I'm still pretty high over the threshold.
True. No, I think I think until something else comes up, I don't know. I think that's a pretty good deck um, to definitely learn and to take to any kind of event. I think if you could master it, if you could pilot that deck very well, I think you could do very well in tournaments. But with that being said, you definitely have to know what you're doing and know how to pilot a deck. But no,
Well,
I look forward to
with so
playing that deck myself.
yeah, with so many counters and stuff in there, that's definitely a deck that you need to. It's not just a aggro deck that sort of plays itself. It's one that you got to know what you're going up against because you got to know what the big bombs are that you need to be bouncing back to their hands and stuff like that. You look at it and it's like it is an aggro deck. You are going to be dropping things fast, right? And sometimes aggro decks feels like they just sort of play themselves. But as soon as you bring in that kind of control element where you're trying to kind of one up them in there, those return to hands and stuff, you got to know what it is that you're actually returning and that it's not going to bite you in the butt when they drop down like something more powerful. Like, should have left it. I need that card for this. So this is definitely a deck where you got to know the meta. You got to know what type of deck you're facing for it to be really strong. Because it is, I mean, it is really strong. Just looking at like the Davies and things like that, like they're pretty. It's pretty baller. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm super excited that you won, man. So congrats again. The prize for that was it was a 1 of 1. What was it? Tell us. What was the
Oh,
grand prize?
1 of 1. It's coming pre-graded CGC 10 Dukraka.
Nice.
So now I'm trying to build decks in my free time that I think emphasize the power of Dukraka.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. I don't have any questions. This thing looks so cool. Mike, is there any last comments before we head on out?
No, it was a very fun tournament. I'm glad that I didn't get paired against you at all. Didn't get to see you. I was trying to fight for my life. I went 3-2, so I was able to make the top 16 cut. But you know, that was my goal, was just to do top 16. But the biggest goal here was Jonathan. With, like I said, we play tested together. We had a plan. Mine was a little less than his. He definitely wanted the top 8. I knew after seeing his deck and how well he piloted his deck that I knew he was gonna go further into the tournament, and I had no doubt he was gonna take home the championship win. So congrats again, Jonathan,
Thank you.
also known as AKA Red in the Discord server. So also on Kryptik stuff, there has been some delays. Tanner has brought out that information to people, which I love about Kryptik and Tanner's team. His communication with everybody and the process of what's going on is just top notch. And I couldn't ask anything else from that. I mean, originally we were supposed to get the booster decks the first week of September. Florida Print Press kind of like notified him, told him that, hey, it's going to be delayed. Tanner then told everybody that, hey, this is going to be delayed, and then expect the shipments to be coming in the first or second week of October. So we should have our booster decks the first week or second week of October, and then the booster boxes are still on pace to be released out into the wild in November from the Canadian printing press. So I highly recommend that get your hands on these cards, get your hands on the booster decks, play with them, because I mean this game is so much fun. It's fantastic. I love it.
I'm so excited for those booster decks. That might be all that I play. I might not play constructed. Just hand me a booster deck.
Booster
Let's
decks
go.
come with packs.
So it's kind of like as far as I know, it's well. Go ahead, Nathan. You're more
Oh
up to
man.
speed with how those
So
are.
so my understanding is, I don't know if you're familiar with Keyforge or Soulforge. Um, so they're algorithmically generated decks that you just have to play with. And my understanding is that the booster decks are created from an algorithm so that they are basically playable from the get-go. So they're very easily like, hey, I'm going to throw these cards into my collection because I have it, but it's also like made to play. It's basically recreate limited without you having to draft or sealed or anything. You literally buy the deck and let's go.
It's literally is for the player because also into that there's no flashy cards,
No
no
foils.
foils, no nothing. It's just hey, here's your deck. It's ready to go. Open it up. Grab a pitcher of beer, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, start mean mugging with your buddies, and hash at it.
Yeah.
They were dropping two types of like a starter deck and a booster deck because I thought one of their pre-con decks came with packs.
They might be. I could be. I don't know the full scope. But as far as I knows, the booster decks are those algorithmic decks that are constructed. But you could be right on the booster packs as well too. I'm not. I have to We'll have to go with Richard to find out
Yeah.
what all he's getting.
What he's getting in there. But yeah, the booster decks, I'm so excited. Just as soon as I heard it was algorithmically driven, basically they drive it by an algorithm so that you don't just get a pile of shit.
Yeah.
So just here you go. Here's this random ass whatever and see if you can make it work. So it's like really defined so that you get something that is more or less made to work with itself. I don't think it's like Soulforge. The point about Soulforge and Keyforge is that they're a unique deck, so they're one of. There'll never be any deck ever created like that. I don't know that it's like that, but I don't know. Anybody who hands me an algorithm and says play with it, I'm game.
Jonathan, you got any last parting words or anything?
No, I'm good. Thanks for mugging with me.
No,
Hey,
no, thank you for mugging with us, man. Appreciate it. Cheers, buddy. And
cheers.
congrats
Cheers.
again on the win and the championship, bringing it home to the Gulf Coast.
Boom.
Um, with that being said, just a quick recap. We did the deck tech on this on Jonathan's uh tournament winning deck. Um, we also are at 44 subscribers. So if you guys can, please hit that like and subscribe button. Also leave comments. Engage with us. Talk to us. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong or how we can improve on stuff. Last but not least. Um, Actually, two other things. The giveaways. So not only that we're doing the first edition booster box of Alpha, or no, I'm sorry, first edition Arcane Rising. Okay, that is going to go to 1,000 subscribers. We are going to be giving and putting stuff aside out of our own personal collections, me and Nathan's, Kryptik Kickstarter boxes and sorcery Kickstarter boxes. So when we have the product in hand, I'm personally going to be setting stuff aside for you subscribers. So to give out giveaways on first edition sorcery and first edition Kickstarters for the people that just missed a Kickstarter. So don't fret. We've got stuff for you guys. But all we can ask in return is just hit that like and subscribe button. That's it. That's all I got, man. Nathan?
Awesome. Well, everybody, have a good night. We will catch you next week. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other.
Peace.